Hey everyone, this is Pause or Repeat. Here we figure out whether a game is really worth your time and money. Today's game is Resident Evil Requiem. The legendary survival horror franchise is back. This time, they're letting players embrace the heart-pounding survival gameplay that Biohazard and Village refined, while giving you moments of clarity through the rampage of action horror that Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6 brought. You can also, of course, expect series staples, such as a story that intertwines with the other games in the series. But the question still stands: pause or repeat? Even in his old age, Leon Kennedy is the aura farmer. That is entirely what he's doing in this game.
Yeah, it's really incredible. And I think they made an awesome decision to bring Leon Kennedy back to the Resident Evil franchise. I mean, gosh, there's already been like 11 mainline games just within this own universe alone. And Leon Kennedy's in 4 of them straight off the bat. And we might as well address it because obviously we have a new protagonist, Grace Ashcroft, who is fantastic and brings her own sense of horror and allure to this awesome universe that's been created from Capcom all these years. Man, 1998? It's incredible to see that it's still standing tall 30 years it nearly in the mix. And so do you feel like that was a smart move to lean into Leon's story and kind of closing his chapter in a sense?
Well, everything comes full circle, and obviously we don't want to spoil the story, but it is a nice point now where his story can end, and if there's no loose ends like there was with the way it ended previously for him, he can move on, basically.
Maybe they will just continue.
Maybe they'll have another game. Yeah, exactly. So the series has been known for cliffhangers.
Yeah.
And maybe now Grace will come back in another game. We'll have to see.
And honestly, that would not surprise me. And have you ever noticed how in survival horror, the scariest sound isn't the monsters, it's the silence right before it. And I feel like that perfectly sums up what Resident Evil Requiem is all about. I mean, especially when you're creeping down these hallways, you're going to be having, the classic flashlight flickering in your hand, and every door handle feels like it's a jump scare waiting to happen. And so you can't help but notice, even with Grace, though, it is a little funny. She's supposed to be a young gal, I'm assuming she's in her 30s like we are, Henrik. I mean, why is she wheezing around like a 90-year-old smoker, as if she just raised from the 9 circles of hell, Dante's Inferno. You know what I mean? Like, I get that she's got panic-inducing trauma, but this, really?
Yeah, I was going to say, think about it, though, Chris. Like, you're in a situation where you could die at any moment. Of course, you're going to be wheezing at even the slightest bit of action that you're doing because you're so tense the entire time.
Maybe she needed an inhaler and a flashlight, both in hand as she's using it. You know what I mean? Because, clearly when you are being tasked to go into a hotel where your mother as well has previously died in this kind of place, obviously that's going to bring back a lot of previous drama in your life. I mean, I couldn't imagine like that was a very intriguing setup for a game. And the fact that she was so willing to take on that task, did you see the setup coming right away, or were you just kind of like going with the flow, Henrik?
No, I did. I definitely did. But it didn't take away from anything, honestly. I mean, when it comes to gameplay on Grace's side, even when I was in those moments, I'm like, okay, I know that the monster is going to show up when I go around this corner, or just an enemy is going to show up, not necessarily the chasing monster in that specific level. The kind of like, he's right behind me, isn't he? Like, I know he's there. I know that they're there. But the fact that I can't do anything about it is what fills you with that dread of like, man, I know I need to do this and I have to, but I'm going to have to sit through this scare just to finish off what I need to do.
Clearly, they brought those 2 different play styles that they've been revisiting in the last 4 years. Clearly, with the the Resident Evil 2 and 3 remake and 4, which 4 is a definitely different play style, which it's a little bit more run and gun approach, and that's why I think a lot of people were very excited when they saw Leon Kennedy make his grand return to the Resident Evil series. But it is still under this shadow of the Umbrella Corporation, and Of course it is, right? It
Yeah,
wouldn't
of
be
course.
Resident Evil, but this time he shares the spotlight with that newcomer, Grace Ashcroft, who is that FBI intelligence analyst. And did you feel like, having that immersive experience where you can toggle between first person and third person in game, was that a smart decision? Did you like that? I mean, obviously we applaud that when we see that in our Fallout universe games, for example, but do you feel like that kind of approach works in Resident Evil Requiem?
Well, it's all about a player preference sort of thing. Me personally, I stuck with what they recommended out the get go, which is first person for Grace and third person for Leon. And maybe at some point I'll go back and actually try the two characters and the different perspectives, because things get presented to you a bit differently when you have a different perspective, obviously. But at the same time, Leon, I feel like his gameplay, maybe it's just me having known his gameplay through 4, especially being third person, it doesn't make sense for it to be first person for me. But it's all preference, really. And
It would
I
slightly
applaud them
bug
giving
the
you the
OG
option.
in you. No, I
Exactly.
totally get it. It is an interesting approach, especially when you can choose to get up close and personal over that slightly zoomed out approach that obviously can clearly show you what's up next to ruin your life in game. Yes, and you're gonna want to try both options. I think it's a really, really cool feature. I found myself sticking to the first person for maybe like a couple hours, and then I naturally leaned out of it for the majority of the ride. That's just was my personal feeling through this kind of 9-hour journey with Resident Evil. But I feel like, the combat is deliberate. Yeah, you're going to be feeling the classic survival horror that you get within this series, with everything feeling like they're breathing down your neck. And the puzzles return with, I would say, that balance and a sense of frustration of like, what the hell am I still stuck here for 30 minutes? Yeah, you're gonna have that.
Yeah.
Game.
No, definitely. It is through and through a Resident Evil game, in every respect of that. Expect the same kind of wacky, who even made this kind of puzzles to be showing up, especially when you're playing as Grace. At one point I was trying to find 3 cubes to put into a door. Who designs a door like that just functionally in the first place? Come
Yeah.
on. It makes no sense, but it makes sense in a Resident Evil game somehow.
Makes sense in a Resident, right? Yeah, and and without trying to give away too much, which is tough. I mean, clearly the second half of the game is full of so many trinkets and surprises, and for the OG fans, I know they're going to be savoring. It's mouth watering, and
Oh yeah.
for the newcomers,
Yeah.
I just kind of wonder, was it the smart move by Capcom to lean so much into the story more instead of like trying to play catch up in a sense for the newcomers? You catch my drift, Henrik? Like,
Yeah,
some people
I
feel
get what you
like
mean. It's
Resident
like,
Evil
do you
could
start
easily do a
to
hard reset if they wanted to.
yeah, you're feeling like maybe their approach almost alienated people who are new to the series on this game
Yeah,
rather
like
than
skeptical. I do even want to buy this
embrace
the
them.
ninth game, right? Technically 11 in the main line. You're like, I'm a little
I think it's
overwhelmed. Where
not a
do I
problem
begin?
though, and I'll tell you why it's not a problem. They played this out
Okay.
pretty smartly. They remade 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so they introduced you to in those games. If you were someone who's been watching the Resident Evil games in the last few years, you've
Or even the
probably
movies.
already known, or the movies, I guess. Yeah, you've probably known who Leon is as a result of that. And even if you don't, just the fact that they have callbacks to certain moments from those previous games, I'm pretty sure makes people curious. Like, oh, well, like, let me go back and play 2 and see what happened in that. And then maybe
That's a
the
good point,
story will
especially
make
when
more sense to me.
30 years after, for Raccoon City, and to be
Yeah.
a newcomer and see that, I can only imagine, like, you're missing out, like, big time.
Hmm.
Without trying to
Yeah.
give away too much in the second half, but like, to go into Requiem without playing, let's say, Resident Evil 2, you're doing yourself a disservice. I gotta say, I don't know how people can be playing backwards, but then again, there is a world right now where people are checking out Knights of the Seven Kingdom before Game of Thrones. But that was a prequel. So that's
That's
what's
true.
kind of, wild to see that, Resident Evil is making that return. And clearly, like, Grace's story is a little bit more about isolation. What are they really not telling me? Even though I'm supposed to
Mhm.
be this FBI informant that's supposed to know all the answers, while Leon's arc is kind of leans into that fatigue, the cost of being the franchise's eternal first responder with that badass Porsche, I gotta say, and
Oh
everybody
yeah.
even called it out on it. I think it's funny that you can't even shoot
Guy's got
the
money
car
now
in the
all of a
game.
sudden.
He's got money, but he clearly knows where to point the gun at, and the Requiem ain't going towards the Porsche, okay? But I
Yeah.
feel like this game's got a really, really nice balance. But is this the top tier Resident Evil entry in your book, Henrik? Is that like gonna lead the charge for future runs?
I'm gonna say, at least in the sense of a Resident Evil game, this is like a perfect Resident Evil game for people to play if they're a fan or not a fan. If you're a survival horror game aficionado and you love that genre, you'll probably love this just the same as any of your favorites that you already have. And that's also for me being a horror fan. I think that even the moments of dread and atmospheric building and the jump scares when they do happen, they're tasteful. It is entirely a masterclass in how to do environmental storytelling and horror, and all the little bits and pieces that I really appreciate about horror are all in this package.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's if this is the future of gaming, we are in a great place because
Yeah.
this looks like a game where you clearly want to have that VR experience at one point as well. I don't know about you, Henrik. It might be a controversial take, but I feel like Resident Evil 2 is a little bit scarier, in my opinion,
Hmm.
than this game. I know some people really vibe with some of the new villains and there are some great jump scares, but I had during that Resident Evil 2 remake, oh my gosh, I felt like I was fearing for my life a whole lot more than this one. But I would say the story and just the from the beginning to end is a lot more captivating and Requiem. And trust me, you do not want to miss this. And clearly, this is a front runner for Game of the Year. Wouldn't you say, Henrik?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, it's only the third month in to the year,
Isn't that
but it's
wild?
definitely going to be the one that, or one of the games from the year so far that people will look back at the end of the year and be like, yeah, that needs to go in the contenders list for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. You got to back this thing up. Resident Evil Requiem is a repeat. That's what I'm going with, Henrik. So I'm curious, what's your thoughts on it? What's the verdict?
Well, if it wasn't clear based on the fact that I gave it so much praise as a horror fan and a Resident Evil fan, it is a repeat for me as well. This is going to be a game that I sink my teeth straight into. I'm probably going to watch other people play it as well, with me right there watching them.
Yeah.
Just
It
see
is
the
a fun
reaction.
game to watch people's reactions. That is for damn
Yeah.
sure. And we want to know from you, the gamers, are you going to be jumping into Resident Evil Requiem, or is this just a pause to be playing something else? Because clearly this is not your forte. Let us know what's good.